Hello everybody. I want to talk a little bit about what the term having a horse on the aids means. And on the aids is something that you hear in more traditional methodology of dressage and teachings, and what it really means is in the traditional way that your horse should be ready to perform any given task right exactly at the moment when you're ready to ask for it. And of course, that would be an ideal case scenario, and I think, it's a wonderful goal to have, but you have to put it a little bit into perspective. And the way I put it in perspective is that I categorize it into different things that are meaningful in this context. And one is the overall developmental stage of a horse. So if you have a Grand Prix horse and the horse is warmed up and prepared correctly within a working session, at some point the horse will be ready to be asked and to perform promptly any given task that might be part of a Grand Prix test, right? On the other hand, for most of us mere mortals, those are, not exactly the things that we're doing on a daily basis. So I think it starts much earlier, especially, when you think about what that really means on the aids for the horse. And to me, it means two things. It means a physical readiness, and it means a mental willingness. Those two things have to come together and merge sort of almost in a synergetic way with the rider's invitations and ongoing communication, a two-way communication that you have with your horse, energy flow, mood, all these different things, like a communication about, what is it that we're doing now? Are we ready? Physically, mentally, can we do it? Can we try it? Yes, no, maybe. So it's an ongoing communication that will become more and more synchronized in terms of what the invitation is and then what the performed task that goes in sync with the invitation will look like and feel like, right? So to me, it starts very, very simply already when you start walking with a horse around, Is the horse ready? Ready meaning physically ready to perceive or receive cues and information and invitations and, some kind of request to perform a certain task as easy as walking around as we do right now. So we're walking at a good, nice, long rein. This is a beautiful walk. Spidey is a young horse. He hasn't, had too much of formal training yet, so we're still working on the basics. So for me, the first thing after we walk for about 15 minutes on a long rein around the arena, around the property, wherever, the readiness that I want to hear about is I will cup him with my lower legs on the long rein and see if I get any kind of response into the slightest little willingness of going either a little bit more forward or even into a little bit of a trot. And with different horses at different stages in their lives and different temperament levels, levels, you get different results, right? But to me, the outcome is always the same. When the horse is not responding, when I cup them with both legs, meaning I put the sole of my foot, or I try to touch the horse with the inside of the stirrup bar near his girth, and if there is not a little bit of a response, and I'm going to try this here, and I'm going to get nothing, and that's not surprising because Spidey is a little bit into the pressure, and there are other videos that you can look at for examples for what that means. But I'm going to try it again. I'm going to say hello, hello, and I get a little something here on the long rein. So that means that the 15, almost 20 minutes that we've been walking around here have oxygenated his, muscles, his nerve endings, his mind, his brain. He is now really willing and ready mostly meaning in the physical term, and willing because he knows that this is not a bad deal for him when we start working a little bit. So I'm going to do this a couple more times. Yeah, getting a little bit close to the camera here, no big deal. And so there's the little bit of the not so willing part that you just saw, where he wanted to drift away from just going on a circular, nice line that I was riding here around my little square that has 4 cones that are loosely placed around a 20-meter circle in this big arena. And so I'm just going to keep going and saying hello. A few steps of sitting trot, breathing out, and walk again. And all I do is give seat aids and leg aids and very little with the reins, right? And so that is my first part of saying, oh, now I have quite a bit of readiness physically, right? And willingness too, because he's starting to get what I want. So then I'm going to say, okay, so next thing is I'm going to pick up the reins a little bit, and you can see how he's wiggling and squirming around a little bit, because he associates the rein contact, which he has learned in previous former training situations, that the rein contact doesn't always mean really great things. So I get a little squirminess, right? So mentally, the willingness for a moment wasn't quite there. So that would have been a really bad moment for me to ask for more trot, or even just a few steps, right? So now I'm going to sort out the mental willingness to be in a fairly decent rein contact situation, which of course have to be supported by my leg and my seat. And so I'm going to say to him again in a few steps here, how about a few steps of sitting trot with just a reasonable rein contact, you know? And we're going to go, there we go. I'm going to just ask and breathe out again and say, thank you so much. That's great. Both hands are giving and taking in the medium walk. Lower legs go left, right. You know, I'm breathing in my up transitions, breathing out in my down transitions, using my knee pressure or knee closure for the down transitions to make it nice and comfortable for him to land in the walk. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of a corner here and ask again. A few steps of sitting trot and back to walk, you know. And there is now a growing feeling on my end here that, yes, there are every once in a while still the questions, but there is a more and more of a mental willingness together with the physical readiness of being warmed up, so that at this point then I can say, okay, so then maybe we're ready to go even one more step. We're going to go into sitting trot and then posting trot, a warm-up trot around the square here, right? And we're going to see how that goes. And my goal, of course, is relaxation, regular rhythm, a little bit of a nice straight line here, and then a tiny little bit of a good corner. And that is also, as you can see, quite possible right now. So right now, Spidey is on the aids for the task that's at hand. And the task at hand is a reasonable working trot for a couple of rounds around my little square here. And that is not a bad deal. He can be asked now to go into a walk, and I will do that. Sit the trot and walk, and I'm going to give him a long rein, right? And that is the beginning of how I think of on the aids at any given stage with other horses as well. It's always this gauging, asking, testing the horse's readiness physically, meaning in this session, is he warmed up enough? Is he, feeling good and reactive and kind of is he with me in terms of his physical reactivity? If I ask lightly and nicely with my legs, is he going somewhere? And he is. And so I work on that longer than anything else really before I will go and say, hey, we're going to do something else. I want a reasonable amount of, polite but also willing in terms of joyful reactivity, not just okay, then here we go, we'll do it, because otherwise things will get harder or harsh, and so on the aids is just one of those things that I want you to keep in mind when you're riding anything really. Any horse, any level. Is my horse on the aids? Is he or she physically ready at any given moment to do what you're going to ask next? And is he willing, meaning joyfully saying yes to the invitation that you're extending? And if so, you are riding with heart and soul and everything else. And that's a wonderful, wonderful combination. So thank you so much for watching. Hope this is a little bit of food for thought for you. And happy riding.